Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by Icom. For more information, visit IcomAmerica.com/HamNation. This is Ham Nation, episode number 209 for August 12th, 2015. Tower Talk with K0MD. Hey, good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday night, and that means it's Ham Nation night as we listen to the lovely sounds of Joe Walsh as he plays us in. We have a great show tonight. We've got Val is going to come in, and we're going to talk with Dr. Scott Wright, K0MD, about towers and something bad that happened to him. And it's always good. He's got a great station. It's always good to see these mega stations. And we're going to touch a little bit on what happened with his tower. And even when you do things absolutely the right way, sometimes stuff happens. And it's a good thing to check this out and keep in the back of your mind if you're going to do a rotor. And rotate a rotator and rotate your beam and stuff like that. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. And we've got some other things going on tonight. We'll have, of course, Gordon West out there in Costa Mesa, California. He's with us. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You're looking lovely as always. We've got, like I said, Val is with us tonight. So we'll say hello to Val and Jerry.
Hi.
Nice to see you guys. Ah, nice snappy salute. Look at him right there. That's beautiful. I've got my flag going and everything. We'll get in with Amanda, and we'll also get in tonight, and we'll visit with Dale, and we'll look at some shacks and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, and George will be here tonight as well with Smoke and Solder. So it's going to be a good show. Bob, of course, is hanging out tonight with Charlie Daniels. Yes, the Charlie Daniels Band. He does the mics for Charlie, and the Volunteer Jam is going on. So he's hanging out with Charlie Daniels. And if you're going to be in the Huntsville, Alabama area on Saturday and Sunday, he will be at the Huntsville Hamfest. And so will I, because we're going to be doing the Young Ham of the Year Award. And Anna Veal, W0ANT, is our Young Ham of the Year. And I'll tell you something that's kind of cool that we're going to do at the Huntsville Hamfest. And I've been to several of them, but I've never been involved with one. We're going to do a Wolf Hong ceremony, the Order of the Wolf Hong. And Anna is going to be participating in that as one of the players. I will be participating in that for the first time as one of the players, so I'm very excited about that. Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, the Cat in the Hat guy from Dayton who does the kit building forum and the kit building editor for CQ Magazine, he will be participating in the Wolf Hong ceremony. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you've never been to a Wolf Hong ceremony, it's going to be 10 o'clock on Saturday night at the Huntsville Hamfest, and it's definitely something to enjoy. And the man who actually helped the old man way back 100 years ago whittle the very first Wolf Hong and suggested the spelling for that device is with us tonight, and that is Gordon West, WB6. No, okay, well, you're maybe not that old, but you're one of the traditions of ham radio too, because you've taught so many people this lovely hobby. So what have you got up your sleeve tonight, my friend?
Well, I wish I was going to be back there with you all in Huntsville this weekend, 15 and 16. If you're within 1,000 miles of Huntsville, be there or be square. I'll be out here on the West Coast where we're still looking for rain, but actually it's good we don't have rain, Don, because we're going to be on the 10 gigahertz contest, 10,000 megahertz and higher this weekend, 15th and 16th. Now, back on the East Coast, where I'm going next week, the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club is having its Fire Island Lighthouse two-day event, and they'll be operating from the lighthouse. Listen to W2GSB, Great South Bay. Fun group. In a few more weeks, we're going to talk about and actually see digital amateur television. Next week and week after, we'll talk about the convoy of military vehicles, including those old Jeeps going from one end of the country to another. And thanks to Tina and Bravo Ben for that information. But the biggie is, Don, tonight. Tonight is the biggie. So, Brian, if you want to go ahead and light her off, we'll talk about what's going to be happening. Well, we won't be able to do 10,000 megahertz tonight. At least I don't think we'll have success. But that's how we do it out here on the West Coast. And we had many of you ask the questions, who makes the modules? And what is a module for a 10 gigahertz transverter? Well, there's the transmit module that up converts, the receive module that down converts, and all of this is available from several manufacturers: Down East Microwave, SSB, that's right, SSB Electronic, Kuhn, DB6NT. Simply go to the microwave pages in QST, and you'll see these names prominent. And little devices like this, like putting the kit together, get you on the air. And there's a new DB6NT transverter for 10 gigs. So you're not having to work down at board level, but you do have to do some assembly required. Well, no assembly for tonight. Tonight is the Perseids meteor shower. It's going to start for you on the East Coast right after this podcast, and will go all night long. Here on the West Coast, it'll get started at about midnight, and we're looking at the remains of the Swift-Tuttle comet, and what we're looking for are meteors coming in. Now, these meteors are coming in at 130,000 miles per hour. We should see 100 per hour. So you on the East Coast, let us know, because you'll see them first. We won't really see them come up here on the West Coast, where we've got nice clear weather, until about midnight. Now, what you'll see will be meteors that will be as bright as Venus. And you know, Perseids is the son of the god Zeus. So look to the northeast, and you're going to see Perseids fireballs. And what these fireballs do is they actually cause a trail of ionization that reflects radio signals. So if you're on some of the bands like 2 meters or the lower frequencies, 6 meters and 10 meters, here's a little bit of what you'll hear before we get a long bird. Listen to the background noise, and then listen for a voice that comes out of nowhere. Nothing. There was one. There was another one. Here, just little syllables. Yeah. So once you begin picking up little syllables from a lot further than normal, you're going to find out that band conditions are hopping with meteor scatter. The Perseids is the biggie. And all the other meteor showers, the Geminids and Oranids and all of the others, are minor compared to tonight. And tonight and tomorrow morning are the main mornings. Now, if you have just an FM radio, but that is 2 meter FM, and you're tied into an outside antenna, go to this frequency. There's more repeaters throughout the United States on 146.94 than anywhere else. And here's what you might hear. Hear that little burst of voice? Listen again. Keep listening. Whoop, there it is. And what these are little bits of voices that come out of nowhere, and that is from a meteor burn. And it could be up to 500 to 1,000 miles away. Tonight, 146.94 FM. Now, these meteor trails on the lower bands, such as 6 meters and 10 meters, will give you some amazing contacts. And if you listen to this contact...
WB6 Nancy, Ocean America, QRZ. KJ7F, WB6NOA 5454, Delta Mike 13, over. Roger, 5 and 9, Delta Mike, just 7 November 13.
Whoa!
Okay, where are you located?
Boise, Idaho.
Wow, your pal sounding in 5 and 9. Good
That's
luck.
about 1,000 miles away, and that was on a meteor burn. So meteors can really do some excitement besides just lighting up the sky. They can light up the airways if you know where to tune. Now, on 2 meters, you've got to be on single sideband to really get a good contact. 144-200 is the upper sideband portion of the 2-meter band. Don't go there with FM. Go only upper sideband. And listen carefully. And the deal is you call CQ Meteors, WB6NOA, over. And that's all you say. You don't go on and on and on because the conversations are quick. I mean, there'll be noise, and out of the noise comes an actual contact. Now, as we go lower in frequency, the 2-meter band, your contact off of this meteor may only last for maybe 2 seconds or 3 seconds, so you have to work at it. But as you get down to 6 meters and technician class operators, yep, you've also got 6 meters capability. The conversations will be on a little bit longer from the meteor trail. Take a listen. Here, 2 folks kibitzing back and forth. Wow, that's pretty neat. So some interesting things happen as we go lower and lower in frequency. But I'll tell you the real frequency that a lot of folks with high frequency like to tune into, and that is the 10-meter band. And on 10 meters, 28.400, that's where you're going to hear excitement.
So I hope to see everybody tonight, Wednesday night on 28.400 or 50.125. WB6NOA, K0MD signing off.
Well, thanks, Chip, and he'll be there as I will monitoring. Now, this modest setup here feeds out to an antenna-restricted area. Sorry, you can't have an antenna on the roof. Hey, no problem. Can you see the antenna? Yep, it's an outbacker, and it's held on to the wrought iron railing. And if you were to look at it from the balcony, there it is, and that antenna was picking up meteors. So, as Chip was saying, 28.400 for most of us is the place to be tonight, and you're going to begin to hear meteors coming all over the place. Now, one other thing, if you live close to an airport, tune in to 75 megahertz. That's part of their instrument landing system. This signal is shot straight up and many times will bounce off a meteor, and you'll be able to hear that signal hundreds of miles away from the airport, in between nothing but what it sounds like, static. So, Brian, back to me and back to those of you with capabilities tonight of both watching the meteors as well as taking part in the biggest meteor scatter shower of them all, Perseids, tonight, beginning at dark. I'll hear you on the meteors tonight. Back to you, Don.
A question. It's very important, a very technical question. Should I wear my tinfoil hat?
I think you should. Absolutely. Anybody that has the privilege of going to the Huntsville Hamfest, we want you to be safe when you arrive there. So suit up, hat out, and make sure it's reflective.
Oh, well, good. I'll have to put the shiny side out. That's good. All right. Thank you, Gordon. That's amazing stuff. I'm glad you mentioned the meteor shower. I was going to mention that, and I've just got so many things in my head tonight that I can't pull them all out. But that's amazing stuff. It's amazing. You can go all the way from 10 meters all the way up and have fun with those things. So good stuff. Hope everybody makes some nice meteor scatter contacts tonight. Now let's bring in our first guest, and that is Dr. Scott Wright, K0MD. Dr. Wright, how are you tonight? It's good to see you again. We spoke on Skype the other night.
Good evening, Don. It's nice to be with you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Now, we're going to bring Val and Jerry in here because they are the tower experts. I'm a wire guy. So I'm going to turn this over to Val and Jerry to talk about what happened with the incident you had with your rotor. So, Val, take it away in all your blueness.
Well, first I want to introduce Dr. Scott Wright, K0MD. He's not only an exceptional DXer and contester, but he is a renowned cardiologist and heart surgeon over at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And it gets pretty cold and pretty brutal on towers up there. And I also have with me Jerry. We're both actually good friends of Dr. Scott Wright. And so we thought we'd muscle in and do this interview with him because Bob couldn't be with us tonight. So, but thanks so much for joining us, Scott. Now, I understand you had a bit of an issue with your tower, or more specifically with your rotor and your rotor shelf. Do you want to tell everybody about that?
Sure will, Val. You know, about 2 years ago, I noticed my large Yagi stack, which is two Force 12 antennas, a nearly full-size 2-element 40 Yagi at about 110 feet, followed by a C49 XR, which is a 24-element antenna that has 3 monobanders on a large 5-inch boom. Tremendous gain, a phenomenal antenna. And I noticed it was turning about 40 to 50 degrees with the wind, more than you would expect with the rotor. So I took a video of that and sent it to K3LR and Frank Donovan, W3LPL, and both diagnosed for me what I thought was a problem, that something was wrong with the rotator. Then I started polling my friends who actually know a lot more about towers and antennas than I do, like Jerry, WB9Z, and asking them what they thought could be wrong and what I should do to really make the system a lot stronger, because my fear was that I had overpowered the rotor. It was an M2 Orion rotor, which is a very heavy-duty worm gear-driven rotor. But these two antennas had about 27 square feet of wind load, and it looked like the rotor was stripping out. And so I made plans, and ultimately this summer we took that tower down and replaced the entire tower with a rotating tower system built by K0XG, and had a chance to look at the rotator. And that's where the real surprise came. So the whole goal of this project is to be able to get a signal from the Zero Land to the Falkland Islands and the Shetlands, so I can work Jerry and David and all of those going on the expeditions.
Good trying. Well, I need both of those for an all-time new one, so I'm going to definitely be on the air for that. But we have some really good slides of what actually happened with his tower.
I talked to the owner of M2 at Dayton a year ago, and Mike Stahl thought that likely the antenna array had stripped the worm gears inside the Orion. He's seen that with very large arrays. And Jerry had advised me to ultimately replace my system with a rotating tower system turning at the bottom, because as you rightly point out, Val, we have 2 seasons of weather in Minnesota. We have winter and we have antenna season, otherwise known as road construction. And antenna season is short. So when we got the tower down, this is what we saw. In fact, the rotor had been held by 4 bolts, but only 1 bolt remained. And
I don't know if you guys can see that. It's very faint, but that little black bolt there, that's all that was holding that on.
Oh, wow.
And the
so
holes
I feel
are
very
all,
lucky.
Yeah, the holes are all wobbled out, so the bolts evidently started like working themselves out. And with the wind blowing and the torquing of the antennas, it just started working back and forth. And it looks to me, Scott, that those bolts, all but one of them, ended up coming out. They weren't sheared off. It looks like they actually dropped to the ground. Did you happen to find any loose bolts on the ground before you took the tower down?
Jerry, I can't say that I did. I certainly looked for missing parts, but I really thought that I was going to find the bolts firmly in the rotator base. So, as you know, when you take these towers down, you don't always look for tiny pieces like bolts compared to tower legs. So, no, we didn't find anything.
Now, and I understand you had somebody just recently on that tower within the last year. That's right?
That's true. I did for another reason, and at that point we didn't notice the bolts were missing, but I didn't have anyone to climb it from September of a year ago until now, largely because most of the problems came during the winter or non-antenna season. And then in December of 2014, right before Navassa, the entire antenna array stopped turning. Now, fortunately, I turned the antenna toward Navassa and left it there when I wasn't operating, out of concern that if the system broke, I wanted to be able to work Jerry and his group in Navassa. And I have a second antenna, second C49 on the tower, turned by a ring rotator, and I had left that pointed at Navassa as well. But this is what we replaced it all with. This is a rotating tower base. It stands about 4 feet tall. It's driven by a prop pitch rotor, and that will turn the entire tower system. It's really a beautiful system. And Jerry, why don't you describe what we're seeing here? You can probably talk about it better than I can.
Well, this is a guy ring, and the guy wires attach where Val's got it, the arrow there. So the ring is actually in two parts. One stays permanently attached to the tower, and the other is the tower actually floats in the other part of the ring. So it's a really slick system, and it's not filled with the ring is not filled with ball bearings. It's just a few cam followers, and since the tower only does like one RPM a minute, it doesn't need a bunch of bearings. But it's a quite slick arrangement. You know, we have this on our 200-foot rotating tower here, and it's been pretty much trouble-free for the last dozen years or so.
Yeah, so that bottom ring, that's what's going to stay stationary that your guy wire is attached to. The top ring is going to be attached to the tower. The bottom ring will actually be attached to the top ring. And if you look at this here, Brian, it's kind of similar to the thrust bearing that I have here, which is what we were showing on his older thing. I mean, this bottom piece would stay stationary, and this top one, you would slide your mast in and attach it to that, and that would be able to spin, as you can see, whereas this stays stationary. So it's a pretty cool setup. Now, you also have on there, besides the whole tower is going to rotate, you put a ring rotator on there as well. And if you want to show that next slide, Brian, there you go. That's the ring rotator, right?
Yes, that's correct. The antennas, with the exception of the one which mounts to this ring rotator, all mount to the side of the tower. So they fit on cradles or brackets that are mounted to the side of the tower to two legs. And then the mast of the Yagis sit, or the booms of the Yagis sit in that cradle, which is a nice support. It's a great way to hold large, heavy antennas. And then I have one antenna that will turn independent of the tower. So let's say I turn all of the antennas to Europe at 45 degrees, but Japan is coming in on 15 meters at the same time that Asia is coming in on 40 during CQ Worldwide sideband. So I'll be able to actually put one receiver to Europe on 40 meters and put the other receiver to Japan. To Europe on 40, and put the other receiver to Japan on 15, and be able to work contest multipliers. It's really something that people like me and Jerry and you, Val, who enjoy contesting, find that you need to be able to hit two bands pretty quick succession, so you can catch the openings when they occur. I operated from China a few years ago in CQ Worldwide with the B1 Zulu station. Fan Ben and his team had invited me to join them. And the openings from here to China during CQ Worldwide are about an hour and a half, it seems, per half day. So you have to be able to grab these multipliers when you can. To give you some sense for the whole setup, here's a crane that goes up 130, 140 feet. Oh. And you can see men on the tower. I had two professional crews of tower climbers, the PK system, a PK group who did K9CT's work and W0GJ's work from Dixon, Illinois. And then I had Paul Bittner, W0AIH, who installed the tower initially for me. Paul has his own crew, and so I had both groups here working on the tower because it's an enormous job. I took a few days off work to work with them, and let's just say I'm glad I have a day job because this is really hard work. It's exhaustive. We put in 13, 14-hour days, and to give the viewers some sense, it was about 20 hours of crane time just to get everything down and then put it back up. And so these are wonderful systems, but they require a huge amount of effort of time and labor. And thankfully, I had some mentors in the hobby like Jerry and Glenn Johnson, W0GJ, who gave me lots of advice and helped. And then what made it really easy this time, I was able to source almost everything I needed for this new tower project from DX Engineering. I know they sponsor Ham Nation, but Tim Duffy and Bob Nauman made it so easy. I think I did 3 orders, and in fact, with one of the orders, I was missing a few thimbles, which are devices that hold the guy ropes to the tower. And DX Engineering overnighted those to me at no extra charge because they had been missed on the initial order. So, you know, they talk a lot about in their ads about being a full-service dealership, and they're beyond that. They really are helpful, and I can't say enough good about the support and the help and just the offline help that they gave me in making sure all the parts were there and to get everything together. And so that's the project, and hopefully this fall and winter I'll have everything back on the air and I'll be able to get back into the contesting mode. It was a tough contest year, as Jerry can probably tell you, and Val, having my big stack pointed basically to the Pacific Rim, Australia, New Zealand. It's awfully tough to work those European multipliers off the back of your antenna.
But I bet you did good in all the Oceania contests this last season.
I should have entered those. I was more worried about working Navassa and the few nudie expeditions that I need, like you, to finish getting to the honor roll. So I'm hoping that I can pick up a few more new countries, Heard Island and also Palmyra, where Jerry will be in January, and a few others in 2016.
Very good. And now I know you did everything right, because you did have somebody just up on that tower before it had gone down. But what do you recommend on this now that you do?
Well, I usually go up the towers at least once a year, or I have one of my climbers go up the towers once a year. Just check all the hardware, and especially those bolts in the bottom of the rotators. Those things like to come out. They like to work themselves out. And this is the tower
tip of the day.
Tip of the day, or the week. Let's say this is a bolt that goes in the bottom of the rotator through the rotator shelf. I like to take the blue Loctite and squirt it onto threads and then screw it up in there. Now, don't use the red Loctite, because you will have a hard time getting the bolt out if you want to change out the rotator because the rotator broke. Use the blue Loctite, because you can use a wrench and break it loose with quite a bit of effort. But this will keep these bolts from working out of the bottom of the rotator. And if you have some rotators with hardware on the top that likes to work itself out, like I have a European rotor. I'm not going to say where it coming from in Europe, but that thing is always shaking itself apart. So I use the blue Loctite, and it seems to really make a difference.
And before winter comes, make sure you get up there, inspect all your hardware, make sure nothing's loose, and if so, get the Loctite.
And if you don't climb, find someone who does climb, or there's a lot of professional hams out there that are tower riggers, tower climbers. They got insurance. They're all over the United States. I'm not going to mention anybody in particular right now. If you want to know, email Val. I'll help her with that, and we can suggest a tower professional in your area.
All right. And thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Scott Wright, K0MD.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Bye.
Thank you, Jerry.
Wow,
Val.
awesome.
Bye-bye.
Awesome information. Thanks, Dr. Wright, for being here. And you see, I've got my.
Oh, you're prepared.
I'm ready for anything now. I've got my tinfoil hat. I've made friends with a cardiologist who's a ham. So between him and my uncle, who's a cardiologist, I think
Good to go, man.
I think I'm ready for practically anything. Jerry, thanks for sitting in tonight.
He couldn't get out of here fast enough.
I saw that. I saw him bail. He's going to go get his tinfoil hat too.
My pleasure, Don.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you greatly. I know you're not the most comfortable being in front of a camera, and we do appreciate, especially something like this with your expertise in towers. Let's go ahead and get into the news of the week this week now with Amateur Radio Newsline. From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 1971, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, August 12, 2015. As hams around the world prepare for the International Lighthouse and Lightship Weekend, August 15th and 16th, one shining beacon in Sweden is glowing with the light of a little extra pride. Stefan Kenford, N8WB.
It's the lightship Finn Grundet, a museum ship in Stockholm built in 1903 and was in service until its decommissioning in 1969. The Södertörns Radio Amateur Club, SK0QO, plans to put the former Marine Navigation Aid on the air for the two-day event as 7S0 SFJ. The moored lighthouse is amongst numerous ones around the world now registered along with an international collective of lighthouses for the Amateur Radio Weekend. This is a very different role for the Swedish lightship from the one it was built to have at the turn of the earlier century. As an aid to navigation then, it would emit 2 consecutive light flashes every 20 seconds, and it was visible for a distance of 11 nautical miles. Now with the hams using the ship to sail their signals across the ionosphere, the club is hoping the lightship Finn Grundet will really go the distance in connecting them to some memorable QSOs.
You can find out more at www.illw.net. Arizona hams have a chance to fine-tune their emergency communication skills August 29th and 30th at a state-sponsored training to be held in Phoenix. The 2 free 10-hour sessions at the Papago Park Military Reservation will give volunteers the basics of relevant FCC rules and regs, appropriate etiquette in an emergency operations center, as well as on-the-air emergency communications deployment and other tools. To participate, all you need is a valid amateur radio license and certificates of completion for FEMA courses 100B, 200B, 700A, and 800B. To find out more, visit the website, www.az-aries.org. Now, some names in the news.
3 hams have been given the YASME Excellence Award for what the group's directors deem a significant contribution to amateur radio, whether operational, technical, or organizational. They are Mike Myrtle, K7IR of Washington State, for his revolutionary invention of a tunable Yagi antenna that was later made available to the amateur radio community under the brand name Step IR. Koos Fokens, PA0KDF of the Netherlands, for his investigations, measurements, and publications regarding noise in the amateur radio bands that played a key role in the global fight against broadband over power line, BPL interferences. James Ying, N2IW of Rochester, New York, for his creation of an online scheduling application that was used by many W1AW portable operations during the 2014 ARRL Centennial and remains available without charge.
Congratulations. The award consists of a cash grant and a crystal globe. And finally this week, the astronauts on the International Space Station can enjoy a proper cup of coffee. Mike Askins, KE5CXP, has the steamy details.
Instant coffee has always been available on the ISS, but now for the first time, it can be enjoyed freshly brewed. Italian retailer Lavazza and Argotec, the provider of space food for European astronauts, have joined forces and created the Espresso, a device that overcomes the unique challenges of brewing coffee in space. The microwave-sized box uses capsules similar to a Keurig machine to brew the caffeinated beverage, as well as other hot drinks such as cafe lungo, tea, hot chocolate, and broth. Fittingly, Italian astronaut and Java fiend Samantha Cristoforetti was the first to try the new machine after it was installed May 3rd. And because no self-respecting coffee lover would ever drink their latte with a straw, a special plastic 3D printed cup was designed to cope with the demands imposed by microgravity. So now, when you're sitting at your window with a hot cup of joe watching the world pass by, you can delight in the fact that maybe somewhere way up in the sky, an astronaut is doing the exact same thing, except the view up there repeats every 90 minutes. Reporting from Shawnee, Oklahoma, hometown of original NASA Mercury 7 astronaut Gordo Cooper, I'm Mike Askins, KE5CXP for the Amateur Radio Newsline.
And we welcome Mike aboard as the newest member of the Newsline team. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for over 37 years and counting at www.arnewsline.org. With Stephen Kinford, N8WB, Mike Askins, KE5CXP, and Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW 73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. It sure is nice to have Mr. Askins as part of the Newsline team. Now, Mike and I have been friends since first grade. We actually started our broadcast careers together at KGFF in Shawnee, Oklahoma, where that pick was taken. And he's still there. 37 years later, he's still there. And just a great guy. And so, Mike, welcome aboard the Newsline family. Speaking of the Newsline family, we normally have Dr. Tamitha Scove with us at this time, but her dad is undergoing surgery on Friday, so obviously she's a little busy right now. So no solar report tonight, but we do keep Dr. T's dad in our prayers. So if you care to send off an email to her or a Twitter message to her, you can even send it to me if you'd like, and I'll pass it on to her, and we'll continue to think happy thoughts and send positive energy up to Dad. So, Val, good stuff from Dr. Wright tonight. We have had another guest lined up, but sadly, technical difficulties not allowing us to get him in. But that's okay. We shall reschedule and move on. And speaking of moving on, why don't we get a word from our sponsor tonight, and that is Icom.
Are you contest ready? Expand your band experience and check out Icom for the best in HF. Once again, Icom raises the bar with the IC7851. Radio features include a 1.2 kHz optimum roofing filter, new local oscillator design with improved phase noise, and several spectrum scope enhancements. The pattern of perfection continues with Icom's IC7700. This radio features a Spectrum waterfall display on an impressive 7-inch color LCD, digital voice recording to capture incoming and outgoing calls, and direct remote control operation with Icom's RSBA1 software. For solid HF operation this season, try Icom's IC7600. This rig offers advanced DSP technology and 3 IF roofing filters, dual watch on the same band, and LED backlighting on an ultra-wide 5.8-inch display. Make sure you visit ICOMAmerica/amateur for more information on Icom's complete line of amateur radio products. And you can tune in and enter to win. After each episode of Ham Nation, go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation. Throw your name in the hat for some great swag prizes like T-shirts or hats. And you can also learn how you could win the monthly grand prize. For August, the grand prize is going to be the IC2300H. It's a powerful, small, and simple-to-use VHF mobile, 65 watts of stable output, proven rugged durability, and it's been tested to the latest mill standard 810G specification. So go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation after this and each episode of Ham Nation and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow Icom America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. Well, for Smoke and Solder this week, the only soldering I have done was a few minutes ago with the trusty old Weller WLC 100 over here. I did a little microphone repair. It's been a busy couple of weeks at transmitter sites and Hamfest and one thing or another. I did visit the Shreveport Hamfest this past weekend. My buddy Wayne and I went over there, and I just got a short little clip here to show you on that. This past weekend, I did a forum at the Shreveport, Louisiana Hamfest. I'd never been to this Hamfest before. It was at the state fairgrounds, and I knew when I started seeing vehicles that looked like these, I was in the right area. There was one antenna I didn't recognize, and upon closer investigation, I discovered it was one of those new chameleon antennas. They had a nice facility for the Hamfest this year. It was in the state fairgrounds agriculture building. There were several vendors of new gear there, but there was also a good variety of swap table stuff too. You never know what you're going to see at these tables, and one item that really caught my eye was this vintage mint condition Harvey Wells rig. I know Bob Howell would like this one. All in all, it was a good event, and it looks like the Shreveport Hamfest is on the way back up. And according to our buddy Wayne, the food was good too. So there you go, just a brief little visit to my trip to Shreveport this past weekend. Nice Hamfest over there. You know, that Hamfest had pretty much gone away, and then last year they brought it back. This year they brought it back even bigger. So we're looking for some great Shreveport Hamfest in the future. This one was really a lot of fun. Speaking of Hamfest, I'm going to be at Huntsville along with my partner in crime, Tommy, N5ZNO, and Wayne, the guy with the hamburger there, and his brother Vince. And we'll have a special guest in tow with us as well. Yes, Bob Howell will be there, but that's not who I'm talking about. Someone that you probably have not met before. I know I haven't. Anyway, come on over to Huntsville if you're in the South. You need to visit the Huntsville Hamfest, one of the greatest Hamfests in the South there. Well, you know, last week I asked a question. What question did I ask? Oh, yeah. What is the biggest advantage of that power regulator that I showed you recently? Well, we had a winner in that, and that was Tom Tunin, KD9BMD, and he said it increases battery life by being more efficient and at the same time reduces heat. And that's correct, Tom. That regulator really is a step above the 7800 series of linear regulators that we've used for years and years. I'm going to send you this Howell PR10 microphone set with the lighted base. a great new microphone from Hall Sound. You're really going to enjoy that. And for next week, I've got another prize here. This one is the Contest University textbook for 2015. Comes to us courtesy of Tim and everyone at DX Engineering. If you'd like to win that, then answer this for me. Where is the Huntsville Hamfest held? And no, don't email me and say Huntsville. That's not what I'm looking for. I want the name of the facility that the Huntsville Hamfest is held in. If you know the answer to that, then email me, hamnationcontest@gmail.com. And you could win this copy of the 2015 Contest University textbook. And now let's get Val back in here and see what's next.
Yeah. Well, like we said, we had some technical difficulties bringing David in, so I will get you that interview with him with the South Sandwich and South Georgia Islands, which is a really big de-expedition. Both of those islands are in the top 10, so we'll get that as soon as we can to you coming this fall. But I did want to let you know about upcoming DX. We got Madagascar and Kenya. They're on right now. Coming up, Zambia and Japan are doing a special event thing. That's going to be running September through December. And as Gordo mentioned, this weekend is the International Lighthouse Lightship Weekend. If you like to work those, get out there and work those lighthouse. And NAQP phone is this weekend. If you remember, I had that online mentor contest where Ham Nation viewers could email us, and Matt Walsh won. And he's going to be coming to our shack this weekend, and we're going to be working the NAQP. So if you hear him out there, we're going to be using my call, NV9L. Go ahead and work him. We're not going to try and be competitive, but we're just going to be mentoring him on contesting. So that should be a lot of fun. So get on the air and work everybody you can in NAQP this weekend. And that's all I've got this week. In 2 weeks, I'm going to show you guys how to do a lot of cool things to make your QRZ page look really good. So I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have fun at the Hamfest.
You know what you can do to make your... I can tell you right now what you can do to make your QRZ page really, really cool looking. Put my picture on it.
With the tinfoil hat.
That's what I did. It worked for me. And also, if you go to my QRZ page and you print out my picture, and if you take that picture and you tape it to your refrigerator, you'll never see another roach in your kitchen. It works. I don't know how it works or why, but it does. and Dale told me that's what he does. And it works just fine. So, Dale, thanks for having my picture up on your kitchen. What's going on with Show Me Your Shack tonight?
Okay, Don. Well, thanks for clearing our kitchen. Well, tonight we'll get down to business. We've got a huge amateur television event and a visit to a hamfest near Warsaw in Poland. Let's talk television first. The 5th annual Amateur Television QSO Party is coming up next Friday and Saturday. That'll be on the 21st and 22nd. The event's worldwide with digital television repeaters in Australia, California, and Ohio active and linked via the internet. To give you an idea of what to expect, we've got a short video excerpt from the 2013 DATV QSO Party. Your videographer is the ATV guy. That's Don, KE6BXT.
CQ, the 3rd annual Digital Amateur Television QSO Party was held on Friday, August 30th, 2013 in Southern California. That was Friday and Saturday, August 30th and 31st, 2013 in Victoria, Australia. The first digital ATV QSO Party was held in 2011 to celebrate 100 years of ham radio in Victoria, Australia. Peter, VK3BFG, and Don, KE6BXT, linked the ATV repeater VK3RTV near Melbourne, Australia, with the W6ATN ATV repeater in Southern California. This year was our 3rd year for the QSO Party, and we also linked in WR8 ATV, the ATV repeater in Central Ohio. So what is an ATV QSO Party? Let's take a look at some of the participants from this year's event.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 3rd annual ATV QSO Party. G'day everyone, VK3KQ.
So Ralph, VK3 Lima Lima, back with you again.
Everyone again, VK3KQ.
John, VK3 ATV, and located in Williamstown in Melbourne, a western suburb of Melbourne.
This has been a brief look at the 2013 DATV QSO Party. Join us in 2014 for the 4th annual DATV QSO Party. If you don't have ATV, you're not seeing the whole picture. And you can join us via Skype. For additional information, go to http://ke6bxt.com/DATV QSO Party.
Well, Don, thanks for the report from the 2013 Digital Amateur Television QSO Party, that blast from the past, and good luck with this year's event. Again, the 2015 Digital Amateur Television QSO Party kicks off on Friday and Saturday. It'll be the 21st and 22nd. That's the next weekend after the one coming up. Well, Ham Nation viewers can participate using their local amateur television repeater or through Skype if they don't have access to an amateur television repeater. Again, that web address to get information from Don's website is ke6bxt.com/DATVQSO Party. And you'll get lots of additional information if you'd like to participate in that event. Well, next up, a visit to the annual picnic and Hamfest, sponsored by SPEC. That's the Polish Emergency Communications Club in Warsaw. Nick, W5NSA, was there. He also holds the call SO5NSA. He shot the video, sent the clips to Ham Nation. He also gave us the information we needed to add a narrative track for our audio-only Ham Nation listeners. Let's watch. The Campinos National Park in east central Poland is the perfect place for a hike on its miles of trails. It's also perfect for a picnic or a hamfest. This was the plan, executed with precision a few months ago by the hams of the SPEC, Emergency Communications Club of Warsaw in Poland. Just like here in Ham Nation, there were flea markets, tents everywhere. There were hams on the air and a nice satellite station with its antennas rotating and on display. Vendors were on hand to display their wares, including dozens of handheld radios. Just like here in the States, there were cautious consumers. And if you love connectors and other small parts, you were not to be disappointed. There were antique modems, antique microwave equipment, antique telephone handsets, and all kinds of surplus military parts and gear. During the picnic, there was a balloon lunch also. The spacious park was ideal. There was even a raffle at the end. Unfortunately, Nick didn't win. But the highlight for many was the food, grilled to perfection in the open air.
Psa kiełbasa nie uczyli. A swoją drogą wiesz, że ten pies jest uczulony? Żona w domu nie mówiła. Uczulony jest na mięso.
Well, food is universal. And thanks for the video clips, Nick. The spec party or picnic and Hamfest looks like a fantastic event. If you'd like to show our Ham Nation audience what you're up to in this great hobby we're sharing, send us a video. Try to use a tripod and shoot short sequences and use those instead of long pans and capture some good audio. Then send an email link to your video on YouTube to hamnationvideos@twit.tv. We're about due for another Show Me Your Shack also. Got quite a few photos in. We can use some more, so get your shack photos in soon also. Right now, let's switch studios and get back to Don. Are you going to take it, or are we going back to Amanda directly in Canyon City? Go ahead.
Well, there she is right there. There's the answer to your question, Dale. Look, see? Now, let me tell you something. You put your picture of her on your, I don't know what you'll get in your kitchen, but it'll be awesome.
Okay, very good. Well, good evening, Amanda. You've got it.
Thank you. He went there. Wow, that's great, Don. I'm gonna remember that. Put a picture of me in your kitchen, and you'll get
awesome.
Question mark. Okay.
You get a big bubbling batch of awesome sauce.
Awesomeness. Okay. You guys, I have a funny story because Jeff got pulled over this weekend for possibly impersonating a cop. So this is hilarious. And I want you guys to be the judge on if he's, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to open the right screen here. So just give me a second. Thank you, Brian. Okay. Cop or not, you be the judge. All right. So let's go to the next slide here and let's see the evidence against him and the evidence for him. Brian? Thank you. Okay. So evidence against him. First of all, the white car. Boom. You're going to look like you're impersonating a cop if you have a white car with some antennas on it. Second, there are a couple of antennas on there. Oh, wait, Brian, go back. So there's a couple of antennas, and these other little circles here are his little strobe lights that he has for events such as bike races and things like that. So again, totally against him. Now, things I'm going to say that are for him, the ham radio license plate, K0JSE, come on. You know he's a ham, he's just a geek, right? Next thing, I kind of circled the Grand Prix because, come on, it's a 1997 Grand Prix. Cops aren't going to be driving that today. It's not a big deal. So, again, against him, if we go to the next slide, I kid you not, he had his laptop open, driving down the road, and he was talking on the radio. I kid you not. And I remember because he's like, he was on his way home from work, and he's like, I got to make a stop here. I'm like, that's weird. He didn't tell me he had to stop anywhere before he got home. ends up he was talking on the radio and got pulled over at the same time. So anyhow, what we're going to do to remedy this, you guys, and I think he's guilty, personally. Did you get the other slide, Brian?
He's guilty of something.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to put some vinyl lettering on there that says, not a cop. I personally, he was so guilty. Come on. It's red flags everywhere.
That's great.
I think so. I'm like, you know what? If you were wearing your uniform on the way home, they totally would have taken you out of the car and thrown you in cuffs. And I'm not sure that I would have argued with them. What do you think, Don? Have you ever been pulled over for possible weird antennas or the likes?
Not technically not pulled over, but this was before Katrina, so this has been over 10 years ago. I was on my way to work. I was actually doing traffic reporting in New Orleans. I did the morning shift, morning drive, and then I had the middle of the day off, and I went back to do afternoons. I was on my way back to do afternoon traffic reporting on the radio station. I had a champagne-colored Buick LeSabre, not a cop car, but on one side of the trunk I had a dual band 2-meter 440 antenna. On the other side of the trunk I had a little Tar Heel. And so I pull into a hamburger place in the inner city in New Orleans, and I'm sitting there and I've got my sunglasses on. Now, it wasn't these sunglasses. They were just blacked out sunglasses. It would have been great if they were mirrored, but they weren't.
Oh, definitely.
So anyway, so the young lady who brings me my sandwich, she comes and she looks at me, and she looks over at the trunk, and she looks at me, and she looks over the trunk, and she looks back at me, and this is a direct quote. It's exactly what she said. "Is you the police?" And I looked at her. And I did this. I went, "No." And drove off. And just left her there to stew on that. That's the closest I've come, but you know, you have funny antennas on your trunk. It's going to draw. It's going to draw stares, so that happens. Now, Gordo, I'm surprised Gordo hadn't been pulled over for God knows what with all the stuff you got on your stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, look, they're coming to get you. Oh.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. All right, I'm ready now. There we go. Okay, I feel better. I feel better.
That's too funny. And Jeff had mentioned, he's like, you should play Bad Boys in the background while you're talking about this. Right? So
that's hilarious.
And I saw some questions on here. Yes, they're amber lights. They're amber strobes. And he had to turn them on to prove to the cops that they weren't red and blue. And the other thing, his uniform, if he would have came home, is a security firefighter uniform. So he totally would have been guilty. I would have yanked him out of the car and been like, on the side of the car now. But
right.
Hey.
Assume the position.
Yeah.
Maggot. Dirtbag.
Wow. So I wasn't talking about like some sticks and stuff. Okay. Let's move on to some questions. Gordo, great segment about the Perseids. Everybody seemed to love that a lot. And I have a couple of questions for you. So can you work digital modes via the Meteor scatter as well?
Those digital modes that don't require an initial sync, but rather will grab in the middle like RTTY and some of the others, yes, you could, but these burns only last from 2 to 5 seconds, maybe 8 seconds to 10 max. So digital is pretty tough.
CW, the original digital mode. You can do CW though, right?
Yeah, CW wins over all. So that's a good point. Thank you, Don. Yes, you can do digital, especially CW, bottom of the band. Better get going, though, at 30 to 40 words a minute, because that's how fast they operate tonight on Perseids.
And wasn't WSJT, wasn't that designed for stuff like that? Meteor scatter and weak signal stuff?
Yep, WSJT, some of the more advanced modes are great because low signal levels and they still get through.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, so one more question for you. Randy K0MD wants to know, should we point a small beam towards the northeast for 2 meters?
The best is northeast. That is correct. That is where the Perseids are going to be emanating from. But everybody says you can have the beam almost anywhere from north to almost south, and you'll get a return when the meteor ionization trail is sufficient enough to carry your signal up and back.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm seeing more questions, you guys, I'm sorry, on chat. By the way, Jeff and this cop were totally cool with each other. Like, this did not end bad. The deputy had complete respect for Jeff once he found out he was a ham radio operator. Oh my God. Okay, I have to admit, I watch Cops all the time. We do. We do.
Yeah, she's hoping to see her husband on there. That's why.
Yeah. It makes us feel
There's
better
Jeff.
about ourselves.
Hi, Jeff.
There you go. I wish he wasn't on a net right now because this would be so much funnier. No, but okay. That's, oh gosh, now I'm losing it. You guys are making me all giddy. So with that, I had some questions for Val about the rotating tower, and she's not here tonight. Well, she was here, but not any longer. Anyhow, that was great with Jerry and Val. So, George, with that, I don't have any questions. So why don't you tell us what your next project is?
That's a good question. I don't know. So maybe that wasn't a good question. I've been kind of busy lately. I've got a lot going on this summer between different transmitter sites and such that I really haven't sat down and thought what I'm going to do next. So we'll just have to see. I know I'm going to Huntsville this weekend, though.
All right.
That was going to be my next question. Are you going to Huntsville? And is Tommy going with you?
Tommy's going with me, so is Wayne and his brother Vince. And we're going to have a special guest there that I can't announce just yet, but someone that you have likely never met in person before. I have not. So that's going to be the highlight of it for me, I think. Plus, I want to get one of those autographed, what would you call it, roach preventatives from Don.
I can do that.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do that. So it's not going to be your friend Jim, obviously, since we've okay.
We've met Jim.
Art Bell? Is it Art Bell?
No, it's not Art Bell. It's as a matter of fact, it's it's a foreigner, but that's all I can say.
Okay, now that I know who you're talking about now. This is going to be cool then. Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Very awesome. Good deal. Well, any more questions for the assorted collected brain trust?
Not so much. No, I think.
Good.
I think that a lot of people thought, Gordo, I just have to tell you, everyone thought your presentation on the Perseids and the meteor shower in itself was so cool. Now, I do have a personal question. One of my local hams here was talking about listening to 55-250 just to hear the meteor shower. Now, obviously, you can't talk there, but you can hear bursts of some sort that you can record and all the likes. Is that true?
Absolutely. Up at 55 megs and other TV channels, although TV has gone digital, you can at least hear the buzz. And even the FM music band, 88 to 108, put it at 103.5, one of the most common FM channels, as Don will tell you, throughout the country. And 800 to 1,000 miles away, you'll hear music for maybe 1 second, and then it'll go away. And that's a meteor burn.
That's cool.
That is cool. That is very cool. And that's all we have from the chat room.
Good deal. Driving to work some mornings when the bands are open, I'll notice that 99.5 will start fading out, and that's one of the stations that I work for. And so I don't have a radio in my car now, but when I did, I would turn the 2 meter on the 9.4, 146.94, And I would be able to talk to people from literally from Texas to Arkansas to Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And we're all in there just having a round table one day. And it lasted the whole hour that I drove from South Mississippi to New Orleans, the whole 65-mile drive. It was just absolutely incredible. So get out there and get radioactive and start throwing some RF around and bouncing your signal off anything you can bounce it off of. It's great fun. Speaking of bouncing our signal, do we know where the nets are tonight? 40, I think, is on 7278. We have Echolink on 355-800. That's the Star Dewdrop in Star node. We have, of course, 30 Charlie for D-Star. George, do you have any idea where 20 is tonight? Anyone?
As a matter of fact, I do. My radio says it's on 14.286.
Well, that's an Icom. That wouldn't lie. So you're doing fine there. Good deal. Well, there you go. Well, that's where all the nets are going to be tonight. And if you're going to be around Huntsville, by all means, come and join us. We're going to have a lot of fun. W5KUB, the helmet cam guy, is going to be there broadcasting. I always like to have a little fun with him. George is probably going to be shooting some stuff for amateurlogic.tv. And something new this year that is kind of cool, Gigaparts is the local Huntsville, Alabama ham radio store, and they're doing their little Gigaparts TV thing. And they conned me into hosting a couple of hours of that. So I think from 10 to noon Central, Gigaparts.com, I think, could be the website. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be, but it's going to be on there. So George, we're going to have George as a guest, and maybe we'll see if we can't go over and pinch Bob Heil and get him to come over. And then at 2 o'clock is the Young Ham of the Year Award, and that W5KUB generally covers that for us as well. So if you can't be there in person, you can certainly be there virtually through the internet and the various people doing the webcast of that. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. So with that, we'll go ahead and pull the plug on tonight. So for Dr. Scott Wright, K0MD, appreciate him being on tonight. And for Val and Jerry, thank you. Dale, awesome job as always. George and Gordo and the guy. Oh, and there's Amanda down there in the corner, and the guy who should be in the middle. Bring yourself up. Bring yourself up, Brian. Brian, of course, we couldn't do it without him unless, he's gone and then, Victor's here. But other than that, we can't do it without Brian. There he is in the dark.
I wasn't ready. I was in the dark.
Where you should be. Yeah, in the dark where you should be.
Thank you.
So, and for the traveling Bob Heil, who is off playing with Charlie Daniels tonight, man, that sounds like fun. For the assorted throng here, let me say 7-3. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time here on Ham Nation. Good night, everybody.
CQ Meteors, CQ Meteors, CQ Meteors.